are you guys ready to review?
Yes.
Alright, cool. If y'all just want to hop on the server.
That was the old one.
Sweet. And then memes for kids if you want to join in as well. If you can. If not, then Malignant.
Yeah, I'll get it. Sorry, I was playing Kovacs and sucking at it.
No, you're fine. I mean, what Kovacs training are you on?
I was doing air tracking. So.
Nice.
I'm trying to get what Master 2 it is.
I might be able to send you a thing that another heavy uses for aim training, but I don't really do it all too much anymore.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, heavy, once you get to a certain point, aim becomes a non-factor. If you're consistent with it, that's the only thing that matters.
I mean, I'm at a point where I don't think tracking as much as, I mean, the occasional scout movement will get me, but that's like 1 in 10, probably. Or 1 in 20 at this point, but everyone in AM sucks, so.
Well, guess what? You want to know what they are? They're poo. You know, like,
yeah, they are.
Yep. Alright, anyways, review time. So, the only thing that we really need to talk about with first is offense, and on offense, here's what you do. You go ahead, and you play this during the beginning of the game. You just sit by the window and spy check the fuck out of every single area. What kind of areas? Let's do a pop quiz. What areas do you think that you'd normally be spy checking in this one location that I'm sitting in? If you guys...
You would be?
I don't even know where we're at right now.
Yeah, I'm on,
we on
first. Yeah.
First.
Okay.
Alright, cool. So, yeah. So, what areas do you think I could be checking over here for spies?
This little thingy right here. You could just check this little thing probably right quick.
That's true, but there's also, cliff. There's this corner, throughout the cliff, this area over here, above the sign, below the sign, on the roof, on this roof as well, on Penis Rock, on a whole bunch of different rocks, on the rocks below, in the bush, over here, right under here, a lot of different places as well. On here, there's just a whole bunch of places that you need to be checking all at once. Now, the meta shifts so that a spy, if he is going to be playing on first, just to get the peek, he's going to be playing over here with Dead Ringer, and it's going to be very annoying. But on the off chance that the spy is running cloak, this will catch him out, and if not, you catch him out by cliff. He's dealt a lot of damage, he can't be forward for a little bit, and if he tries leaving, your team's already there, capping, and watching the spawn. So, you don't really want to drop down or anything like that, you just want to head glitch over by this area, do as much as you can, and if the spy doesn't die, you go back through this area before the point is capped. But, if the spy dies, that allows you guys to go for an E-push, which we'll talk about soon. And yeah, aside from that, the only thing that I wish you guys do is, for first and second, use Fist of Steel. There's no need to use the Gru yet. I'd much rather you use the Gru for defense in some situations, but the most important one is that when you're trying to go over to B, you are checking for sniper, you are peeking, and you are also looking for stickies before everybody gets here. So utilize your Fist of Steel, just watch for every single area, including up by the health pack, up by the staircase, and realistically by these two doors as well, if you can. Now for B offense, it's pretty simple. Once you get into these areas over here, I'm on B right now.
Yeah, I'm over there. I'm in spectator.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, my bad. But yeah, once you're around this area, the main goal is for you to just watch this area, wait for your team to get something done, and then go in, or maybe your team wants to push all the way in shack or shed or whatever you call it, upper, heaven. If your combo does rotate all the way over here, you might be designated as the main watcher, and if you are, the most important part is that you're not peeking into anybody, people are peeking into you, and you are catching out people if they do walk into you. The other thing that's important is that if you are peeking up here, you do this with multiple different people. You do this with a sniper, you do this with a soldier, sometimes a bonk scout, but you do this with different people, or you do it with the same people, but you guys are together. If you peek alone, you're dead. Or you have a great chance of dying when you really didn't need to. The most important thing is that when you are trying to peek up here, assuming that you have a sniper and the sniper should be the first one peeking into upper, He's the one peeking first. He gets the shot off, and then you immediately go in. When you go in, you're aiming for pressure, not for the kill. If you get the kill, that's great, but if you get pressure on him, that's equally fine. Once you get that pressure on him and he drops down, that's when you can go ahead and kill the telly. This is why a soldier is really good for up here as well. If your demo wants to come up here, it's even better because then you can just focus the teleporter together. You don't need to jump into shed in order for you to get the telly if you have a demo or another explosive class, but if you did want to go ahead and try to do it, be mindful of where the gun is, be mindful of who's looking at you, who's bombing in. If anybody's trying to get in on you, just be careful of all of that. Also, another thing, be aware of any single stickies up here. You won't be able to check them when you're walking in, you're going to be focusing on the fight. So, if you do want to pressure, and you don't want to get cleared by stickies, stand by the door and kind of just bait them to deading, and then you can walk back in. Or, you know, you could just gun it and hope there's no stickies, but I'd rather you live and not die. Whew. But assuming that there's no teleporter, there's nobody bombing over, which you can easily check for if you play over here, just look up and wait for people to jump into you. The best thing for you to do is just wait for something to happen. You can look over here through the window if you want to get some peek. You can also play the head glitch right here, try to peek it as well. If the heavy doesn't die, he's going to be playing by the head glitch over here, and that's going to be really annoying if you do want to try and pressure upper. But there is an important thing that you need to realize. If your team is going to use Uber through main, you wait. Nobody's going to bomb over here. You're checking for that. If people do end up bombing over here, you kill them as best as you can. But assuming that everything is done, the Ubers are out, it's post-fight, and you have upper. If you're doing this alone also, and no teleporter, nothing jumping into you, check for the heavy over here. If he's still over here, you might be able to play this a bit more aggressive, kind of bait him out. Maybe the sniper's in main, your sniper's in main, and you're just trying to shoot him. Of course, be mindful of anything else. When you're looking over here, you're looking for combo, but also sniper and NG, as well as the heavy, so look for heavy. If he's not really a threat, try to aim for the gun with your team. Do this while your team is getting the gun. So if spy's sapping it, your team's shooting it, perfect opportunity to go for the gun, and then as soon as that gun's dead, you have more liberties trying to walk over here. I'm not going to say play aggressive immediately, but I will say if there's no sniper, the gun's dead, and you kill the NG, that gives you more of an opportunity for you to play along this wall and kill any people on it. Whew. Any questions when it comes to pushing upper?
No.
Alright, cool. Another thing too, I don't really want you to push main, but if you are called to push main, the main idea for you is to just kind of... Actually, I don't know. No, I'd much rather you upper instead of pushing main. Never mind. I lied. But yeah, sometimes they will just do a whole lot to try and get upper. What I want you to do is prepare for that. Get a 450 buff as soon as you can and as much as you can. And just be prepared for a fight. People will walk into you, people will sit in angles, and you are forced to walk into them. And yeah, it's going to be a bit of a hassle, but if you stay alive, stay buffed, it's going to be much easier than if you weren't. And also not playing alone. If you're not playing alone, this becomes really easy. Of course, if you're playing with a sniper, then it becomes a little bit tricky, because not only do you have to do everything that I talked about beforehand, but you also need to watch out for your own sniper. And yeah, that's pretty much it. As soon as the gun's dead, they give you some space. Maybe they're in spawn ready to refight you. Kill the telly as best as you can over here. Maybe you might have to play this head glitch if you're getting the pack. This head glitch, no, you don't have a head glitch over here, but you do have a body glitch. But yeah, you can play this head glitch right here. Maybe you can get some ammo over here, play the head glitch, and be ready to jump in whenever your team is ready to push them. But if they are playing aggressive, utilize every single wall that you can. It's surprisingly really easy to push this if you do have that space. But the other important thing, you're either sitting on point or you're sitting by the window, not directly in it, but by the window ready to fight them through the spawn. Especially if they're just spawning as well. You could look for this area by playing over here. Of course, be mindful of anybody trying to play window like the enemy heavy. As well as any single combo pressure, you could play over here by the left side. Maybe here by the right side, and you can play this head glitch, or you could just body glitch the entire thing while also shooting through the cracks, being mindful of window as well. You can also play this a bit differently depending on what you want to do. If you want to wait for them to walk into you, this is the safest way for you to do it. Of course, this doesn't prevent anybody from dropping down and trying to kill you that way, which is one of the biggest things that the enemy heavy can try to do to you if you are playing the window up here. This is really good if the heavy's called Wishbone and the entire combo is called Wishbone, because then you just prevent any sort of pressure. But you also need to be aware of anybody else trying to peek over here. Maybe there's a spy, maybe there's somebody else, but you're listening, you're paying attention, assuming that nobody's walking into you, this point is capped. Any questions for offense on B? Alright.
Not really.
Sweet. And I am going to do this real quick, because we will get into why I wanted to do this for a second. For defense, the biggest thing that I want you guys to do is to try to maintain uppers for as long as possible. And the best way for you to do that is to just get visual on what they're trying to do and playing accordingly. Sometimes it might be better for you to play over here, like if it's just a bad team and they're sending individual players into you. If you can recognize that, it might be pretty good. But some good teams will send their sniper first, you peek, or you expect people to peek into you, and you die. Or maybe they send their heavy, their soldier, trying to peek into you as well. You deal damage to them, and then the sniper peeks, and then you're dead. So please, please be careful of those situations, and utilize this corner peek over here. But also just be ready to fight this whenever you can. You want to be 450 at all times. You always want to have a teleporter up here. If you have a soldier with you, that's even better, because then you have to prioritize less about living. Or not even living. You have to prioritize less about just trying to keep yourself alive and doing other things like spy checking around in these different areas over here. Which you should be doing, assuming that nobody's pushing into you. If there is, you notice that, and then you can immediately turn your attention to this, especially if they try to Uber through main. Because if you're not being forced from heaven or from upper, you can sit deeper into here and wait for a post fight. But either way, the biggest thing that I want you to do and want you to practice is being alive up here for as long as possible, which means that if you're, at 200 health, they're dealing a ton of damage to you, you lose all your crit buffs, and you're at like 200 health, it might be a good idea for you to back down, maybe get the health pack, play on the teleporter, go through shed, just a whole bunch of different ideas. Of course, you can also get a whip, and with the Gru, you can jump up here. And it's much better than trying to walk through main or trying to take the teleporter or waiting for your NG to rebuild that teleporter. And yeah, assuming that things go well, you can hold this for a really long time, especially if you call your demo to place stickies above each door whenever there's downtime. If your demo does this, kiss them on the lips. Anyways, is there any questions for B? No? Okay.
Nah.
Just be careful of different spy spots. Sometimes your sniper wants to play in main and you have to spy check around these areas. Just being mindful of that, as well as all the way up here. Sometimes behind. You just want to pay attention. If, for whatever reason, they all go E, what I want you to do is just to sit in this area. You are going to be the one sitting here, not your NG. You are going to be sitting here. But that's only an ideal, and if your team does want you to peek with them in Wishbone, like let's just say it's do or die and your team needs everything, here's how you play it. You check to see if anybody's on the C part of Wishbone. If there's not, you keep peeking, and be mindful of this window right over here. This window can fuck you up if there's a sniper over here, so please be careful. Don't necessarily jump rev, but be mindful of that. If there is a sniper, bait the shot as best as possible. But the most important part is that you're watching this doorway in Wishbone, and you're also peeking the point. This is essentially what the gun's going to be doing better than you at. But if you need to do this at an emergency, this is how you do it. If there's an Uber that comes in and you're also if your med also has Uber, you might have to take it with your pyro. But generally speaking, you should be sitting in this little area over here, spy checking as best as possible, but also just being aware for anybody on the point. Of course, I'd much rather you not do that and have your NG do that as well, because he's better at doing it, he does more damage, and he just does a lot better in that spot. It's less committal for him, it's more committal for you. But if it's do or die, then that's the way that I want you to play it. I also don't think you could do that jump without the Gru as well. But yeah. One other thing for B. If you guys are planning to refight it, they don't look over here at all. If you see a heavy over here, it might just be free for you to play drop down, peek into them before they realize you're here, and get some sort of advantage. Of course, you might not be able to do that, and if so, you can leave through Wishbone, you can leave through the spawn, going into Wishbone from here, assuming that nobody's in lobby, assuming nobody's in heaven. Or you might just need a resupply. But either way, if you're fighting, you wait for your team and you walk in all together. Peeking this window as best as possible is also really good. Just be mindful that people can still shoot you through this window as well, including sniper. But yeah. Also, please utilize these spots as best as possible. They really do help. I also forgot to mention one thing. If you're pushed out of upper, and there's no teleporter, there's no soldier with you because he's dealing with people in Wishbone, play this head glitch as best as possible. If an Uber does happen, you play back here, watch for people in main, being mindful of this area over here as well. But that's how I generally want you to play this. I want you to be spy checking as best as possible, spy checking for yourself, but also for your engineer or anybody by the dispenser over by this area. If your engineer does get a tele set up, then it's fine. If your soldier's here, then boom, you pull out the Gru and you jump all the way up there. But this is going to be a terrible angle for them to push if you're consistently sitting here and being a thorn in their side. If they're allowed up here, they can jump on your combo, and that's what you don't want. So this is how you play against that. Of course, if there is an Uber exchange or there's a lot of people that are dead, just be mindful of walking through here. It's not ideal in any situation to lose in this area, but you're also going to have a potential risk of dying. So please be mindful of anybody walking through main. Any questions? Alright, sweet. So I'm going to talk about defense for a little bit longer because I do want to talk about Wishbone holding for a little bit. Your team, they leave B. This is where you set up on Wishbone while the slow door is opening. Your combo sets up here. You're watching over here. You might be able to check over here, but honestly, you look through hell, you look at slow door, and as soon as the slow door opens, your combo should leave. And from there, your combo can play aggressive, and if they do play aggressive, you can play on this rock over here. Watching slow gate. Your combo ideally watches Wishbone deeper than they want to walk into. Of course, you can play it like this. You can also play it like this if you wanted to, if you wanted to be a bit sneaky. If you wanted to be a little stealthy, you know, like a CSGO operator, you know, just fucking just when they walk in, you know. But yeah, if you're not with your team in this spot, it can be very volatile and you might die. So please be mindful of that. If your combo's not here, you back up and you play this head. You play the pack over here. But if they don't send people in slow gate, and people are still coming out of Wishbone, people are still coming out of hell, assuming that nobody's slow gate, you and potentially another player can wait for people to walk from Wishbone, and you can drop on them, pretty much. You can call for your combo to wait, then you initiate that fight, your combo comes in, and it's a good cleanup, if nobody's walking over here. But usually, a soldier, a heavy, and maybe a sniper will peek over here. The sniper mainly because he wants to set up for a post fight and really wants some pressure on your team. Aside from that, let's talk about pushing C. There's two ways of doing it. You either push through Wishbone and you do it normally, or you push through slow gate and you help your sniper and your soldier. The idea for pushing into Wishbone is pretty simple. You either focus all of your attention onto C, or you focus your attention onto E, which then leads to a C cap. Rarely do you ever push E and it works from this spot when you capture A and B. But assuming that you can go ahead and kill the gun or put pressure on the gun with your team, maybe your soldier bombs the engineer from hell while he's wrangling the gun. If there's a soldier up there, maybe you can clean him up, watching for spies as well, through Wishbone, watching for people in lobby like a scout. It might be pretty good. But with the long rotate and the fact that they can just easily kite out of C and help their team on E, you're doing this for that initial that rotate from the other team. You're baiting them to not getting on a worse cap, my bad. You're preventing them from capturing C because they need to deal with people on E, and because your combo is right here, you guys can push into C, and it's pretty much a free cap. It's a throwaway for a reason. This is how you would push it if your combo wants to focus their attention on E. If you do get every single person dead from heaven on E, you could try rotating through lobby, although it is a bit slow, and I don't really suggest it all too much because there's not really much that you can do in this position. If there's nobody, maybe there's an engineer or people are already watching heaven, and your combo does want to commit people into E instead of fighting C. You might be able to rotate with your medic and pyro all the way over to heaven, like so. But like I said, it's a long rotate, and you'd be better off just pushing C at that point instead of committing people onto E. But yeah, you push E, you force people to come over here, then you push C. Let's talk about pushing Wishbone for C. If people are on C and you're pushing Wishbone, your team is going to exit out of Wishbone first. You are mainly here to deny people over by this area, but for reasons we'll explain later, I'd much rather you push Slowgate anyway, but we'll get to that soon. If they have people on E already, or if people are on C and you're ready to fight them, if you're in Wishbone, this is how you do it. You wait for your team, ideally when they go out with an Uber exchange. If they're doing this dry, then you pretty much do the exact same thing. You wait, check for people all the way up on cliff, and then you peek last when your combo's ready. You're just supporting people. You're not really trying to peek first. And of course, if people are on the point, you shoot them as best as you can. You try not to walk forward as best as possible. If there's a heavy up here, it gets really annoying, but assuming that your combo plays on the left side, he has to commit his body, and that can lead to a sniper in Slowgate or soldier in Slowgate bombing him, shooting him, focus fire galore. But the entire idea is pretty simple. You deal with players on point, you deal with the heavy over here, you can walk up, and you can start capping. And this is the way that I want you to cap from now on. You get cap time while you're sitting over here. You also watch both of these windows. Do this every single time. I do not want to see any variation. Alright. Now for Slowgate. And for all of these pushes, I'm assuming that you already have your 450 buff, but especially for this 450 buff right here with your soldier, do not do this alone. Go with your soldier or a sniper. Do whatever you want to, depending on the team environment, but the most important thing, you're doing this with multiple people, not just you. Assuming that you just cap B, you guys are calling for a Slowgate push, you get buffs, and you play over here for a little bit. Be mindful of anybody who's trying to peek over here, like a soldier, maybe their sniper, maybe their heavy's playing up close too. You're just looking for people by this Slowgate right here. If there are, you might have to commit a little bit. People know you're here already, but you're just pressuring them out. And most importantly, if it's a soldier, the worst part that he can do is, if the gate's open enough, he could shoot rockets at you. And because he'd probably be on banner, he'd farm some banner off of you. So please be mindful of that as well. In fact, this isn't even the worst part for you to get hit by splash. It's on B trying to walk up on offense. So please be mindful of any single splash damage you take. It could be building a banner. But assuming that nobody's over here, or you're fast enough so that you can peek this side and not commit, or not be seen over here. Once the Slowgate opens, you and your soldier, you guys are getting ready to push. You call that you're ready. Your combo walks through Wishbone. You walk through Slowgate with your team, soldier, sniper, whatever. And here's the idea. You're sitting over here checking all these little spots, trying to get as much pressure as possible. You have this head glitch. You have this head glitch. You have a lot of different things, but the most important part is that you're helping your combo, but you're not committing yourself entirely. Very easily, I've seen heavies just commit and then die to whatever pressure is being made over here. So please be mindful of any single person trying to pressure you out. Maybe a heavy's playing over here, so you can take the head glitch and it's a much more even fight. You can still shoot their combo because this heavy isn't really your target as much as it should be the demo, or maybe the pyro, maybe even the scout if he's sitting on here. But the most important part is that you're protecting your team, You're allowing them to walk up, and if nobody's over here, that's when I would start getting onto point or rotating through wishbone or slow gate. We'll talk about offense a bit more, mostly because you have some variation on what you should be doing. If you want to play this slow and baity and generally useless, you rotate all the way out of slow gate. You go to B spawn and you get on A and then you fight that. That's boring as fuck. Here's the cool idea. You sack all the way into Death Hall anyway. The idea being it's faster for you to die and get pressure over by a Death Hall than it would be for you guys to go all the way back into spawn on B, rotate to A, and then try to fight lobby. But yeah, generally speaking, you want to make sure that whenever you're walking into Death Hall, nobody's looking at you over here. You're looking at the shutter door, making sure nobody's dealing damage to you. Soldiers could get some splash damage onto you, which is annoying, but assuming that your combo's able to immediately get onto D, and nobody's pressuring from spawn, not just yet, you sit up here, you wait for people to walk into you, assuming that nobody's over here and nobody's by the connector. That's when your team will call you to drop down. This is the few cases where you can drop down, but it's only assuming that nobody's immediately pressuring you out of connector. Any questions for the offense push on D?
No.
Alright, cool. Aside from this, you are probably going to die. In fact, it's so likely, this is the reason why this push works. You immediately go from C to D from Death Hall, and you die. That's the... Are you fucking kidding me? God damn it, dude. I shouldn't have done this on the 4th. Oh, the fucking fireworks in the background sound like gunshots. No. Anyway. No, and my dogs, they like bark the entire time. It's great. But
Dog in America, man.
oh yeah, happy belated Canadian Day, by the way.
I guess.
No problem. Anyway, so we'll talk about offense in a bit, but first I want to just go over how to hold D and how to hold E by proxy. So the main entire idea is for you to just be sitting in DE connector, not so much on this wall because you can get shot by the sniper through the window, but being able to peek in this area, making sure nobody's going through D, nobody's peeking through lobby, which you can check for like so, and just making sure that a heavy is not walking into here and walking into lockers as best as possible, but also being aware for people on D. The worst thing is that people will drop down from Death Hall and then you're immediately being caught out. But you have 450, you have a pack, you have a med, you have your team. It could be a good fight if you just rotate out and play all the way over here. But sometimes the fight is immediately going to take pressure over here, and I preferably want you to fight D or E from this spot instead of in spawn. We'll talk about holding in spawn in a second, but the most important idea that I have for you, if you are trying to win, do this exactly. Look through the windows, check lobby if you can, check for anybody pressuring D. If there's somebody going Death Hall, your spy is going to be calling that. You listen for that call, or if your spy is dead, that's when I would rotate all the way over here and start playing this spot, which we'll discuss about later. But assuming your spy's alive, he's giving you calls, you do not need to go into shutter, you do not need to go into spawn to rotate all the way over so you can start playing into Death Hall and on D. Assuming that lockers is being controlled, you can easily look out for a heavy, especially when you're fighting over by this head glitch right here, which, assuming that people are walking from lobby, this is the best way for you to deal with them. You don't want to overcommit, because if you overcommit, you can easily be caught out like so. So play the angle wide, force this heavy to walk into you if he's already in lockers, but you should also be checking for that in your spare time. Of course, when you're playing this spot, this is assuming that your team is with you. If you're doing this alone, it kind of sucks, and your team needs to be with you. So it's called that their combos in lobby. You call that out the best that you can by peeking this spot right here and just being aware of anybody in that room. You're prepared to fight this head glitch. You're prepared to fight this heavy. You're watching out for people in Death Hall, and that's how you defend D. When it comes to people playing Wishbone and prepping in lobby as well, the best thing that I have for you is to please get out of this corner or window as best as possible. Play close and be mindful of JFK. and then shoot people on the point. Or shoot people through wishbone if there is like a gun or the sniper's dead, and you can afford some time and pressure to blast anybody in wishbone. The biggest thing that I've seen heavies do is just kind of commit to whatever angle, and sometimes playing it like so could be bad because there's a sniper JFK or there's no calls and their entire combo pushes wishbone, and then oops, all of a sudden your combo dies and you're the only one here. So please listen for the call on where their combo's at, where their flank's at, where they're trying to push from, where they're trying to pressure from. Of course, you have comms over here. You should be the one looking for your looking for their combo, but also your flank, your scout, your soldier. If they're not fighting wishbone, maybe they're playing lobby as well. Maybe your combo's playing lobby as well and you want to defend it that way. If so, here's how you do it. The best way for you to play lobby is for you to play close. You're doing this so you can defend from people walking into lobby, namely the combo, sometimes the flank. Maybe the combo sometimes likes to push out wishbone while the flank is being sent into lobby. Regardless, you're playing over here, you're staying at 450, you're not eating splash damage, you're just being a stalwart defense. And of course, if people walk into you, you can play the angle like this, and if so, you're watching out for different angles, playing it wide. But the most important idea is that you're over here, not just to defend this door. This is being defended by your demo, by your pyro, maybe by somebody else, but you're also watching for people getting in from behind. Of course, if people push from Death Hall, the best thing for you to do is to play like an offense class. You just peek through lockers, you're ready to take the fight. And we'll talk about this fight later, so just keep that in the back of your mind, put a pin in it. The most important thing is that you're not caught out when you're rotating back onto DE connector. What I want you to do is just pay attention to the fight. If it's bad for your team, then you should back up. You should leave like so. Lockers is a bit too long of a rotate. I don't want you doing that. So here's what you do. Here's the normal situation where you should look to back up. A bad Uber exchange. When you're playing the Uber exchange, you are out of the Uber. You do not want to eat a flash. You want to let it be on your demo, on your pyro. You play back, you look for people. You can also look for people in wishbone over here, still helping them out by watching this angle over here, watching out for spies, and if the Uber's bad, your combo's rotating out. As soon as they rotate out, you leave with your medic, just being aware of anybody through Death Hall, anybody by lockers, maybe a spy's trying to kill your team, so you watch out for every single different angle. Then you play like so, DE connector. You already know they're in lobby, so you don't need to worry about jumping over here. You're just prepared for a fight. You see the heavy, you see the heavy, you see people walking out. It's a fair fight. With that being said, let's talk about one thing. This is the idea that one player had, and they weren't even a heavy player. They just wanted to do this a bit differently. Originally, they would sit over here. They would wait for the combo to rotate through Death Hall, and the idea is pretty simple. They all peek out D, you are right behind them, or you are right behind them. The better way to do it, what I found yesterday, you sit over here, or preferably you sit over here. You wait for them to walk by, and as soon as they walk by, that's when you go ahead and rotate all the way over to here. Why is this important? If they fake it, if their combo goes through wishbone, you have a quicker rotate back to this DE connector. Of course, being mindful of anybody in JFK, watching from wishbone, yada yada. The reason why I want you sitting over here is because people are going to be looking at this side of the spawn anyway. And what I figured out was that people can just look under through this point. So if you're playing it smart, they're walking from here, they're looking at this door over here, they're not going to pay attention to the floor. They're just not. And if they are, they're doing that in retrospect. And even still, they're walking through, and as soon as you see people walking through, you do not need to look over here anymore. You just are prepared for that fight. And you're ready to peek over here, you're ready to peek over here. And then you're going to call it with your team that you're behind them, and then you can get that really nice kill. But yeah, like I said before, that's the best way for you to deal with people if you're holding this and your spy might be dead, or your spy's not calling. Just be aware, if people are not calling in lobby, I'd much rather you play DE connector, or if your spy's in a different spot, maybe you can talk with your spy on what you should be doing with your team. Generally speaking, your spy should be able to call where their combo is at, and if he needs help or if you want to do something different, this is the idea that you do. You play around this area if you want to try doing this, if you want to look at Death Hall. You play over by DE connector if you assume that your spy is going to do his job. Alright? I would not go to this spot and spawn if your spy is dead. I'd much rather you sit in D connector, look for people through lobby, being ready to fight this head glitch, or being ready to back up if people do walk Death Hall, if you're not prepared for that. This is the best way for you to do it. Just being mindful of Wishbone as well. Any questions? Alright, sweet. For defense, that's pretty much it, but there is a couple of things I do want to say. If they are pressuring E, and you guys still have D, you're able to take this spawn. There's an idea that if people are holding Wishbone, or not Wishbone, if people are holding Heaven, the idea is that you peek out over here while your team is either pushing from Wishbone or maybe lobby, or not even lobby, but pushing through DE connector or maybe pushing through lobby. The idea is pretty simple. You are not going to do much in these areas, and if you do, the best case that I really see you doing is you either kill the gun from lobby side or you kill the gun from DE connector side and you're shooting people, or you're shooting people from DE connector from Heaven, out of Heaven, or killing them outright. This is just doing this but on steroids. You're peeking directly into any splash that they might have, but assuming that nobody's paying attention to you, you can easily deal with people like so. Easily. What I do not want you doing is if D is already being capped, and if it's capped, you're stuck behind this door, I don't want you in this position, even if it seems good. Because you are just one step away from getting picked, and then you have a longer respawn by 30 seconds. Alright? But that is the last general idea I really have for you on defense. Let's talk about offense for the last bit. Now, you're dead from the DE connector push, or you're boring and you rotate all the way back to spawn. Because you're boring. And you're playing A. First, let's talk about the ABE push, or AB push, just for example as well, because I forgot to get into that. Assuming that the spy is dead, you bait for pressure over here. You peek a little bit into here for a little bit. Maybe you're walking in with your combo if the spy is dead. But if the spy is alive, you just want to pressure for an AB push. Here's how you do it. You force their attention, you make them call that you're rotating all the way over to here. And then as soon as you get that call from your spy that they're backing up, that's when you guys all go through drop down. And you take the fight from there. But assuming you want to do an actual A to E push, here's how you do it. You're pushing from lobby, and you're doing the exact same thing that I talked about beforehand, but you have a much bigger intention of killing or heavily injuring their scout and soldier, while not taking any splash damage. When you're walking into here, be mindful of anybody playing up top, on the top right. But your main goal is to just be in this area, just watching different areas. Your soldier and NG should be getting whips all the way up into Heaven. With that done, your combo is pressuring Wishbone, trying to get into it as best as possible. People are on the cap, and you are watching the spawn from here. You are just avoiding any rockets that you can. But you're also shooting people entering the spawn. If your combo dies, then it might be a good idea for you to back up. But assuming that they do have Wishbone, your people are capping, this is the best way for you to push it. Aside from that, playing A to D is pretty simple as well. You're just doing the exact same idea that I talked about beforehand, but you have a much bigger emphasis on people over here. You play it wide, check for people, or you're helping your combo when they're walking through Wishbone. Maybe their combo's playing close, so you're playing back here for a little bit, waiting for an exchange or waiting for a dry fight. If your dry fight is happening, you're kind of lagging behind your combo, but you're ready to support them at a moment's notice. And you're just generally watching out for anybody peeking over here. Maybe the spy's behind over by these areas. You're checking, don't forget about this spot. Kill whoever's on private. But anyway, you're walking up over to here. You have a 450 buff, assuming that nobody is trying to shoot at you. And provided that you're given this entire space, here's what you do. 450 buff, you can check over here for anybody in heaven, or for where your combo's trying to push, or your flank is trying to push. If for whatever reason you guys get their heaven and you are able to walk onto the point, sometimes the idea is for you to just walk onto the cap, get into heaven like that, and play that spot, which we'll talk about later. But the other idea is that you push D and then you push E. The way that you push D is pretty simple. 450, you play to look at this angle on lockers, you're not peeking, you're just letting the heavy know that you're here, but it doesn't matter. The push is coming anyway, and you're pressuring this heavy to do something. Your combo walks, I want you sitting by this door. If your combo has the space and they walk up, it's pretty good. If their combo walks up or the heavy walks up and you're getting pressured, you can immediately leave. You don't want to fully commit yourself first. You want to wait for your combo and then you commit yourself. Mostly because if you commit yourself first, you die and then your combo has no heavy or nobody watching lockers. But assuming that you are able to get this angle, you can check for people over here as well. You're just waiting for the demo, waiting for the pyro, waiting for your med. They push out, they're dealt with, or they're not dealt with. If they're not dealt with, they're getting pressure on point. That's when you can go ahead and start peeking with your team. Or, you know, maybe at the same time that your demo's walking in, that's when you peek with them. Of course, being mindful of the head glitch over here. You can also maybe get a head glitch if you wanted to play the angle like this, but generally speaking, I'd much rather you on top. And then from there, it's pretty much the exact same idea. You play this angle, trying to watch DE connector, assuming that nobody's in it. You might be able to play the head glitch like so, but the main idea is pretty simple. You're just watching for people DE connector, you're getting cap time, and it's a much easier push on E. Of course, at the same time, I really like this spot when it comes to fighting people from Death Hall, from their spawn, but sometimes just playing close like this is all you need. It really does depend on your team and the environment in which your team is able to play. If people allow it, you'd be much better over here. If people don't allow it, this is a much better place for you to play safely in. And of course, if you cap D, you can go all the way through lobby like a bower and, you know, just get cap time from this side over here, but that's boring. Let me tell you how to push heaven from D. If you cap D, it's pretty simple. You make sure you're watching out for people in spawn. You're clearing out the people over here. You're not committing yourself. You're just doing enough damage to pressure them all the way by the health pack. Assuming that the shutter is closed, you could just look for spies. You can do whatever you wanted to do. But instead of walking up here, let your other teammates do that. Be annoying. Kill anybody doing this. And then you walk up. And then you play this angle right here. If you want to win, this is how you do it. Ideally, playing over here on heaven is a win condition. If you can get up here, if your soldier can get up here, if you have people on the point, maybe if you're not even capping D, but you just go onto E and you're sitting up here, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. If people are pressuring cap, you're over here, you're watching for this angle, you're watching for this door if D is not capped, and you're just waiting for them to make a rotate. If there's nobody playing over here and you don't see anybody, assume that they're going through assuming they're going through wishbone. If people start to pressure you from DE connector, you can back up a little bit, play this body glitch. It's really good at avoiding snipers as well. They do want to shoot your butt. But assuming that the combo's smart, or you just see it, you rotate, or you pay attention to where they're rotating and you see if they're going lobby, you can check through here as well. Your team could be able to check through here as well, and you just wait for that fight. You're still paying attention to heaven, you're still paying attention to DE connector, but assuming that nobody's here, that's when you go ahead and start shooting the spot right here. But let me tell you something. If they go wishbone and their demo's pretty sneaky, it can go through hell and start shooting your team, or their soldier can go from hell and start shooting your team. If you see them doing this, guess what you're doing? You're killing them. And if you're not, you're evading shitty. But that's how you play heaven. And it gets easier if you cap D and then you go into wishbone. Or not into wishbone, if you go up into heaven. But this is a general idea that you could be doing all the way when you cap C, because I forgot to mention, If you cap C and you don't want to do this, you can commit people into Wishbone, and you can take the fight from there if your rotates are quicker, and you have people ready to just take the fight into them. And the idea is pretty much the exact same. You get on point, you get on heaven, you prevent them from getting into heaven, and it's a much better fight. Instead of rotating all the way around, or dying. But, yeah. Also, just one other thing. When it comes to playing offense, sorry, not offense. When it comes to playing defense, there's a couple of different ways that you want to be rotating with your team. If you guys still have D control, you might be able to push through here, you might be able to push through lobby as well. Generally, you do want to be following your combo, not trailing behind them, but just following them to where they want to go. And if you do want to fight lobby, you have sightline over here. Assuming that people are ready to fight heaven with you, you can peek Wishbone a little bit, being mindful of JFK or anybody behind, and just get this angle. You kill everything in this angle, including the gun, which will be stationed here sometimes, and then you deal with people on point. It's also really nice to do this if people are in heaven, maybe there's a gun set up heaven, and there's nobody Wishbone to deal with you, nobody in JFK, it's just people on point and people in heaven. This can be a really good idea. If you want to fight E as well, sometimes a good idea is for you to just go out Death Hall. Sometimes this is the only way for you to do this because they cap D and you're pressuring, and they're pressuring E. You just go over here, you do the exact same thing on offense, you're shooting people out of heaven, but people are going to be more inclined to play aggressively into you. They will not allow you to get heaven. Their soldier's going to shoot you, maybe there's another person up here as well, but if they're smart, they're also going to send people by this window to kill you. With that being said, you play it the exact same way. You check for people in Wishbone, you clear heaven, and then you peek the point like this, just being careful. But that's not the only thing that you could do. In a last-ditch effort, you and your soldier, you could do this alone, but I want you to do this with somebody. You, your soldier, or somebody else, you're going to go through Wishbone, you're going to take it, and you're going to fight the point from there. Remember what we talked about when it came to holding Wishbone and trying to protect the point? It's pretty much the exact same idea that we talked about beforehand. You're sitting in Wishbone, or you want to get into the spot in Wishbone, you deal with the people on point, or if they're all on point, you play this aggressively with your team, assuming that there's no pyro to push you back into Wishbone, push you out all the way into pit if he's playing over here. Of course, you're also being mindful of traps, any sort of pressure from hell. There's just a lot of different things that can go wrong. But assuming that you're playing with your combo, or your combo or team is pressuring from a different way, you could pressure point like this, maybe you can go all the way back, pressure the point like this. It really does depend. But that's just Wishbone, and even still, sometimes you might be able to go hell. I don't really suggest it. I'd much rather your soldier or demo do it, because they have much better capabilities of doing things like this. But if you are able to, maybe they have a sniper that's playing in not JFK, because if he is, you're dead. But assuming maybe he's not playing lobby, maybe he's not playing JFK, this could be an idea. Maybe it could be an idea to hold like this, but generally you don't really get this spot too often. You only really get this spot if you have heaven, and then you drop down and want to be weird. Also, look out for people like that. They will be weird. Is there anything that I'm forgetting? No, I think that's it. Yeah, do you guys have any questions? Because that's pretty much it for Steel. It's a fairly simple map once you understand all the necessities on what you need to do. Some points are really easy to try and push, and they have a clear format and how you need to push it. Other points, like defending DE connector and going all the way from spawn to fight from Death Hall, sometimes it's creative. Like, sometimes you don't just want to sit here. Maybe your spy's calling lobby, and then you can afford to play over here watching Death Hall. It really does depend. So, play to however your team wants to play it. But these are just the best ways that you can hold and push Steel. Any questions?
No.
Sorry for the rampant stuttering. I have just been tired today. So, yeah, I hope the review's still been good regardless of that. And, yeah.